Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing this motivates your ex to come back. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing this motivates your ex to come back. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, it needs to be a thought that comes from them. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 things that motivate your ex to come back. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is they need to believe they thought of this themselves. Now this might sound somewhat obvious. Your ex-dumper chose to end your relationship, and hence, of course, if they decide to come back, this is something which needs to come from them. But let's break this down a little bit to explain exactly what I mean. So if we consider the 2 main possibilities of how your ex-dumper would come to the conclusion that they want to reconnect with you, the first possibility is that they consider it themselves, which is what we need to be focusing on. The second possibility is that you persuade them. And this is exactly what we can't be doing. This is exactly what won't work in the long term. So when I say you can't be persuading your ex-dumper to come back, in essence, what we are saying here is that you can't be doing the heavy lifting in trying to speak with your ex in a way to persuade them to get back in a relationship with you because maybe, quote unquote, you two are really good for one another. You know, that is something I often hear. Well, me and my ex-dumper, we were so good for one another. We were brilliant together. We were each other's best person. Well, unfortunately, your ex-dumper doesn't currently believe this. And if you try and persuade them otherwise, this is not likely to work, certainly not in the long term. Now, am I suggesting that in some instances you couldn't have this type of conversation and get back together with your ex? No, I'm not suggesting that that's impossible. But what I am saying is that if you were to do this and feel that you were successful, the likelihood is this new reconnection is going to fall apart sooner than you think. And the reason for this is unless somebody does something for them, then unfortunately it's not likely to last. Let's consider somebody who is deciding whether or not to stop taking a bad substance in their life. Maybe they are someone who drinks too much. Maybe they are someone who smokes. Maybe they are someone who does whatever it may be. You want them to stop. But unless they genuinely want to stop themselves, it is not likely to be something which lasts. If you quit something, it needs to be because you truly want to. If you decide to get back into a relationship with someone, it's because you truly need to believe this is right for you. And this is the problem that we often see, where dumpees are trying to persuade their ex-dumper to reconnect with them. And although this is a natural position, it's a natural thought, this isn't going to work unless it comes from your dumper. And that is why I'm saying they need to believe that they thought of this themselves. Now, the way I worded this is because you do have an influence as a dumpee. The way you behave, the way you live your life, these things can influence your ex-dumper to come to their own decision. And that's the point. You are not persuading them. You are living your life in a way which they would then see as attractive, hopefully regrowing enough romantic emotional attraction to decide that they want to reconnect with you. Now, of course, you have a choice on this. You're not just waiting around forever. They come back to you and you have to accept this. You are allowed to change your mind as well. You might want your ex back now, but perhaps you don't want them back in 9 months if this is when they reach out to you. Either way, when we are focusing on what motivates your ex to come back, the first point we really need to understand is that this needs to be something that not only they believe themselves, but they believe they thought of. If you chase your ex, if you text them, if you call them, if you do any of the things where you're trying to explain a reason why you two should be together, this isn't going to work. Now, maybe on occasion it will work initially, or maybe it seems that it's working, but as soon as they come to the realization that this isn't actually what they really want, that this isn't actually something that they came to their own conclusion of, they will sadly end the relationship once more. It's not something which is going to last. So you can't try and convince your ex that you two are right for one another. Now, does this mean at the time of a breakup you can't say your piece? Well, no, of course you can say your piece at the time of the breakup. That is absolutely fine. If you have unfortunately gone through a breakup, you will understand and know the pain, the magnitude of emotions which are flowing through you and your ex during the conversation. Hopefully it's face to face. It may have been over the phone. It could have been on text. During that breakup, during the moment itself, of course, you can say what needs to be said. You can explain why you feel you two should be moving forward together instead of breaking up. You can say your piece, but once the dust has settled, once it is clear that your ex-dumper has decided this relationship is over, you can't try and persuade them. Now, at the time of the breakup, you might be not so much trying to persuade them in a way which is against their thoughts and principles, but maybe you're just trying to clarify something which has been misinterpreted. Maybe they believe you have done something which you didn't, or maybe they believe you didn't do something which you did. In that regard, you can explain yourself, of course. What we're talking about here is that when the dust has settled, if you try and persuade and convince your ex you should be together, unfortunately for you, it is not likely to be reconnection which happens. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please give this video a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is pain is motivation. So today we're speaking about what motivates your ex-dumper to come back. And point number 2 is important because we have to recognize what is most likely to motivate someone to come back in a relationship and what is less likely to do so. And pain is much more of a motivating factor than pleasure. So let me explain a little more. Right now, you are going through pain. As a dumpee, you are experiencing a lot of pain. That's very, very sad. It's something which nobody would want to go through. Nobody would want anybody else to go through. But you're experiencing that pain. You understand well what I'm saying here. And hence, you are listening to today's podcast because you are motivated to try and make change. Now consider when you were happier in your relationship. Maybe the relationship wasn't brilliant. Maybe a few months ago, a few years ago, it wasn't brilliant, but it was kind of okay. And things were ticking along. So during that time, did you have the motivation to take things to the next level? Now, occasionally, some people might try and do so, but most of the time they don't. Because most of the time, we don't try and improve our lives when things are somewhat okay. We don't try to make okay brilliant. But what we do often do is we try to make pain into okay and hopefully good. So we are motivated by pain. We are not as motivated by pleasure. And this is really important because your ex-dumper needs to miss you, but they also need to recognize that single life is hard. They need to live some of this single life. They need to recognize that they are not really, in most instances, going to find a better connection than you, certainly not anytime soon. It could and likely will be more than a year before they could find a potential long-term compatible partner. And even that person is not guaranteed to be technically better than you on whatever metric they are seeking. Very few people find a long-term compatible partner within a year or so post-breakup. Single life is tough. And your ex-dumper needs to recognize this Because if they don't recognise this, they are not feeling the pain, which is going to motivate them to potentially look back at your relationship and possibly reconsider their position. So this might sound an almost twisted mentality to have, but you want and almost need your ex-dumper to live some single life. For those dumpees who want their ex back a few weeks post-breakup, it's not going to happen most of the time. Irrespective of what you might have heard online, people suggesting things like 30 days and you can get your ex back. Listen, it very, very, very occasionally might happen. But most of the time, from my own research, you're not likely to get your ex back until anything between 6 to 12 months post-breakup. That's the average amount of time that I see. So, although a very small minority of people might get their ex back sooner, most of the time they don't. And why is this? It's because the dumper needs to live that single life. I call it the single honeymoon period. The period of time that they can live their life as a single person, doing the things in their life that they couldn't do within the relationship. Now, maybe that's because you didn't want them to do certain things. Maybe they couldn't do certain things due to time. Or perhaps it's just the logistics of being in a relationship compared to being single. They need to live that single life. They need to understand that things are not easy. They need to realise that you are not going to be there as their safety net. That ties in with point number 1, and you're not trying to persuade them to come back. Because if you're not trying to persuade them, they're wondering where you are. Remember, this is the paradox. This is something that I spoke about in previous podcasts. Your ex-dumper doesn't want you to chase them, but subconsciously they think you will. They expect you to. And if you don't, they're going to wonder where you are. So let's combine this single honeymoon period where they live their life as a single person, coming through it and realising, actually, this isn't quite what it's cut out to be. I thought this was going to be brilliant. And maybe at first it felt kind of new and fresh, but now I just feel lonely. And not only that, my ex-dumpee seems to have left my life for good. They're not contacting me. They're not trying to persuade me. I didn't think I wanted them to persuade me, but I thought they would try, and they're not. So if you as a dumpee implement my version of the no contact rule, you are removing that safety net. Your ex-dumper doesn't know what to do for the best. They don't know which way to turn. They're starting to feel kind of lonely, kind of concerned. This is when they might start to feel pain rather than pleasure. And this pain is going to be a much stronger motivating factor for them to reconsider their relationship with you, for them to reconsider the breakup, for them to reconsider the mistake that they've now realised that they have made. That is the difference. And that is why pain is motivation. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is you leave the curtains to your life open. Now that might sound a really random phrase, but let me explain as for why it fits in nicely about what motivates your ex-dumper to come back. So let's go through that again. You leave the curtains to your life open. So what this means is you give your ex-dumper the opportunity to find out about your life, but you don't directly tell them about it. So remember, the thread throughout today's podcast is you as a dumpee are not chasing your ex. You're not contacting your ex. You're not persuading your ex. You're not trying to do anything which your ex-dumper could see as you presenting yourselves as an option going forward. Remember, you're not chasing them, you're not their safety net, you're not saying, hi, I'm waiting for you, do what you want to do, I'll still be here. You're not doing that. You're concentrating on your life. You're living your life for you, not them. This is what you're doing. Now, if you leave the curtains to your life open, what this means is they can find out about your life. Meaning, if you have social media, those social media profiles are public. It doesn't mean you have to follow your ex. It doesn't mean you have to be friends with your ex. It doesn't mean anything other than the fact that you have social media which is public. Meaning, if and when they want to find out about you, they easily can. What it also means is that you don't block your ex. Now, look, there is a caveat. If your mental health is suffering so badly that you feel you need to block your ex, well, you must use your mental health as a guiding light. If you need to block them, you must block them. But it goes without saying, if you block your ex, they can't contact you. So just try to think of it in a way that if you want your ex back, they need an avenue to be able to reach out to you. On top of that, some social media have profile images, have updates, stories, whatever it may be. Again, those things you could be using to your advantage by showcasing your life. You're not directly contacting your ex, telling them about your life. But if they want to seek and find out about what you're doing, they could find out easily. So whether it is social media, whether it is blocking your ex on messaging apps or whatever it may be, these are the things you need to make sure your life is open. Leave the curtains of your life open. Do not block them unless you have to. Make your social media public. If you have friends of friends, make sure the mutual friends find out, of course, about what you're doing with your life, so they will inadvertently pass this information on to your dumper, but don't say to your mutual friends, hey, tell my ex this, tell my ex that. No, that's going to be counting as persuading. You just need to be living your life, maintaining those mutual friendships, and this will drip feed back to your ex-dumper. If you live your life for you, if you become a version 2.0 of yourself, if you become a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday, and a better person tomorrow than you are currently today, then anybody who sees your life through social media, messaging apps, or hears it from mutual friends, your ex-dumper is going to be intrigued. If we combine it together, they will be motivated to reach out to you.